Every year we cover a huge number of games across a wide range of platforms, and 2017 has been no different. So, which games stand out as the best this year? Well, for the first time, we put our heads together and came up with a list based on what we've played. So without further ado, here are our picks for the most technically impressive games of 2017. Released earlier this year, Nex Machina is a collaboration between arcade legend Eugene Jarvis and HOUSEMARQUE, the studio behind Super Stardust HD, Resogun, and the like. It's a fast-paced arcade shooter and it's awesome, but the reason it makes this list is simple. It's an impressive feat of engineering. Essentially, Nex Machina can present detailed but completely destructible stages, which makes for a more interactive shooting experience as you can now blow parts of the environment apart. This is achieved using signed distance fields stored as voxels or volume textures, an interesting form of rendering which allows for this type of manipulation. It also allows for things like complex fluid simulations and other interesting tricks. Particles are used heavily throughout as well, and physics can be applied to them, and that's not even getting into the lighting and shadows, which look excellent. Taken together, it's a visually striking game. And what's most impressive about it all is that it runs at a blistering 60 frames per second, even on a standard PlayStation 4. All of this is to say that Nex Machina is well worth checking out. It may have slipped under the radar of many, but it's both a great playing game and a beautiful one. Check it out. These days, many games have made the leap to third-party engines and tools such as Unity or Unreal Engine, but developer Deck 13 has continued to focus on its own proprietary Fledge engine. Built from scratch, Fledge offers the flexibility and quality you'd expect from something like Unreal at a remarkable speed, and the Surge takes full advantage of this. The Surge is basically a science fiction, Souls-style game, and while it has its flaws, it's a solid action RPG with challenging but well-designed mechanics, and when played on a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X, it delivers a full 60 frames per second experience with the option for a higher resolution 30 FPS mode. Throughout its runtime, the Surge presents an advanced GPU-accelerated particle system, support for a huge number of lights per scene due to its clustered deferred design, screen space reflections, per object motion blur, true volumetric light shafts, isotropic lens flares, and more. But what really sticks out here is the size of it. The Surge is a lengthy game with plenty of content, but its file size comes in at just 6 GB on consoles. It's rare to see such an expansive title require so much space, but that's precisely the case here. Loading times are also extremely quick, making retries after death less painful. In a world of 100 GB plus games, it's nice to see something like the Surge come in at such a small file size while still offering plenty of beautiful content. In the end, it's great to see a competitive in-house engine like Fledge offer great performance, a small data footprint, and advanced visual features across multiple platforms. Here's a game which perhaps hasn't received the attention it deserves. With the release date earlier in 2017, Gravity Rush 2 has slipped out of the public eye rather quickly. But there's a lot to love here, not the least of which is its technology and art direction. Gravity Rush 2 is an impressive game to behold. The game world is basically broken up into a series of large floating cities suspended across the sky. Each island is large in scope and beautifully detailed, and you can fly between them freely. When combat begins, however, it's clear that it's not quite as static as you might expect. Large and small objects alike can be destroyed and flung around the scene. Physics are applied to most objects as well and react to what's happening on screen. This is enhanced with the inclusion of a robust post-processing pipeline with high quality per camera and object motion blur and a soft focus depth of field effect. Plus, you have the gorgeous cloud system, which helps tie everything together. In motion, Gravity Rush 2 is simply a sight to behold. That it runs so smoothly while looking this nice is the cherry on top here, and if you're using a PS4 Pro, it's one of the few games to use high-resolution geometry rendering with lower-resolution shading. So you get sharp native 4K edges with reduced in-surface detail, which just happens to work rather well in a game with this type of aesthetic. So if you've missed Gravity Rush 2, be sure to give it a look. CLAYBOOK is an interesting thing. Produced by a very small team, CLAYBOOK's graphics technology is the product of former Red Lynx tech mastermind Sebastian "Sebi" Aaltonen, and it looks unlike anything else we've played this year. CLAYBOOK makes use of signed distance field-based geometry with ray-traced visual elements and a custom, robust physics engine built on top of that. It's currently available on the PC, but is coming to consoles, and all platforms are designed to operate at a full 60 frames per second, just like Trials HD. So you can see the results here then. CLAYBOOK genuinely does present realistic clay material which can deform in real time. Any surface in the game world can be transferred to your clay objects as you'd expect and carved up by the player. A fluid simulation is also used, allowing for flowing rivers and buckets of water. Keep firing as rocket jet into the bucket, for instance, and eventually the water comes spilling out. And that's precisely what you'd expect from real clay, which is what makes this such an interesting thing. Clay is completely malleable, and CLAYBOOK is much the same. It really is a beautiful game. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an amazing technical achievement. It may not look that way at a glance, but when you consider the features supported by this engine, the average level of performance, and the target hardware, it's a small miracle that it works as well as it does. After all, this is both a Switch and Wii U game. Breath of the Wild is a highly dynamic game which presents a large open world filled with loads of interactivity, more than your average open world game. And as you look out over this world, many of its impressive elements become visible. A wind simulation is applied to the grass and clouds, enabling dynamic scenes such as this, while the clouds themselves are procedurally generated and produce cloud shadows across the terrain below. A full volumetric light system is in use, enabling God rays which remain visible even when the source is occluded from view, and a light probe system allows for pre-calculated global illumination with an approximation of light bounce via these probes. There's also plenty of real-time lights in each scene, dynamic weather, reflections, and many other visual features here. We're really just scratching the surface in this summary, but it's surprising to see so many modern rendering features included in a large-scale game designed to run on the Wii U of all things. Which is why, regardless of which system you're playing it on, Breath of the Wild might be the most technically advanced game Nintendo has ever produced. It's great to see Ubisoft fully realizing the potential of its advanced technology on consoles with Assassin's Creed Origins. With its vast world to explore and impressive lighting, Origins stands out as one of the most beautiful games of the year. Right from the start, it's clear that the lighting is the real standout here. The pre-calculated GI implementation is exceptional, going to great lengths to simulate realistic light bounce and indirect lighting conditions. It looks excellent and can smoothly transition between different bakes, enabling a dramatic time of day shift, unlike Assassin's Creed Unity. The world itself is also remarkably detailed, with structures and trees stretching out as far as the eye can see. And in this current version, the LOD management is quite good, so there's not a lot of visible pop-in either. On top of this, water is rendered using a mesh similar to Watch Dogs and looks uniformly excellent as a result. ACO also features an excellent HDR implementation with a host of adjustable options and support for both Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro. There's just so much detail packed into any scene, and performance is generally very reasonable considering this level of detail. But really, this almost didn't make the list. You see, shortly after launch, the game received a performance update which reduced the quality of distant LODs and textures. A lot of people complained about this, and thankfully, it's been corrected, and ACO now looks every bit as good as it should. It's difficult to overstate just how good this game looks. It's one of the most impressive open world games ever made, and if you're running an Xbox One X or the PC, it looks even better. Looking back at everything we've played this year, it quickly becomes clear that Horizon Zero Dawn is the single most impressive game we've played in 2017. Guerrilla Games' Decima engine powers this gorgeous open world experience, a game with some of the finest lighting and world design we've ever seen in any comparable title. Horizon excels in many areas. Its world is vast and composed of diverse biomes. From the beautiful deserts to the snowy mountains of the frozen wilds, there's a sense of scale and quality here that often feels lacking in other similar games. The rich global illumination system enables gorgeous scenery at any time of the day, and this is enhanced by a top-tier HDR implementation. Plants also sway gently in the breeze, snow deforms as you run through it, and a rich volumetric cloud simulation paints the distant skies. The sheer density of detail placed across the world is staggering here, and the stability of the performance is even more impressive considering this. Animation is fluid, character and NPC models ridiculously complex, and texture detail very high. And that's not even touching on the post-processing effects like motion blur and depth of field, which are used regularly. I could go on and on here, and have done so in the 2 analysis videos posted earlier this year, but the point is, Horizon offers a level of visual quality that exceeds just about anything else we've ever played. That's not to say it doesn't have its flaws. The water rendering could be improved, and only select plants react to your character. But really, overall, what's here is genuinely impressive to behold. And with such an impressive overall package, Horizon feels like a natural choice for our most technically impressive game of the year. Congrats to everyone at Guerrilla Games who made this possible. And with that, we've reached number 1. This was a tough decision to make, and there are many other impressive looking games which came out this year that came close to making the list. Titles like Wolfenstein 2, Forza 7, Gran Turismo Sport all look incredible, but that's just how these things go. So what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on the most impressive games of 2017? Be sure to let us know below in the comments or over on Twitter. That's all for now though. Until next time, this is John signing off.